So we can actually coherently rethink this entire process, and it's going to, well, part of it's already done, but it includes a design accelerator, product development, and manufacturing that really focuses on local, sustainable, transparent supply chains, an R&D center for fashion tech of the sort that Dr. Seymour is talking about, like biofabrics and wearable tech and all this stuff. I have no idea. And then e-commerce, which is another huge disruptive, and some of that's already played out. You've got Everlane, you've got some really great brands that are creating disruptive e-commerce platforms that they call fashion tech, but actually what it is just a disruption of the traditional retail, just basically the distribution model, So it's actually, you can call it tech if you want, but it's really about logistics and distribution models and supply chains. So these are the figures we've got. The statistic is that sales for the U.S. apparel market is 200 billion world. Wow, that sounds huge. Okay, anyway, so it's a huge market. Sorry. I didn't prepare that slide. But the point is that, okay, we all wear clothes. It's billions and billions and billions of dollars. That's why there's a lot of really big companies. I mean, I remember when I was working at Ralph Lauren, it was like, we were making like $8 billion a year or something like that. It was something crazy, and it was a great place to work. So, so like I said, we need to integrate all these things as we're innovating them. It's really important that we not just work on one solution at one time, and that's why I created Manufacture New York, was so that we could work on it all at once together, much like Dr. Seymour said, with integrating and coordinating technologists, designers, and the product development process. Yes, absolutely, that has to happen. Sorry, I think where's my feedback? Yeah, so feedback here. If I get this. Sorry. Okay. So sustainability is a huge part of the strategy. I don't know. Can I turn it off? Yeah, turn it off. And operational sustainability should be a part, not just CSR. I'm not just talking about just playing off like you're doing sustainability. I'm talking about embedding sustainability in every business that you invest in will throw off cash, ultimately. And it will save you money. The return on your investment in those sort of companies will be high. And that's because operational efficiency comes from sustainability, just simply because, especially in goods-based businesses like fashion, you're talking about a lot of material and a lot of transportation, and it's expensive. And if you can reduce that, you're going to save money. So that's kind of that part. So yeah, in terms of us, we have a Garment Center pilot program that we're just wrapping up. We just spent a year working on a test model of our incubator and product development facilities. We are now moving on to our Manufacturing Innovation Center for Apparel, Textiles, and Fashion Technology. We're working with the City of New York, some fashion moguls, and we're also looking for private investment right now. But yeah, so talk to me if you want about that. And it's really great. It's in Sunset Park. You got to see the building. Like, if you're interested at all in this, what you really need to do is come out and see 160,000 open square feet. That's 2.5 football fields. This center is literally going to be a city block, so I'm super excited. That's the building. And our partners did a $100 million rehab, so it's actually the best industrial manufacturing space left in New York City. It's pretty awesome. And our idea is like, hey, let's make a whole ecosystem for fashion, and let's actually integrate all of it. So this is also about social innovation and how that affects technology, and co-locating all of this innovation together to create even more innovation and even more ideas in one concentrated space. Very similar to what the historical Garment Center was like, actually, but just in the building. So this is what I think of when I think of fashion tech right now. It's like wearable technology, Google Glass, Ringly, this very cool company that tells you when you're getting a text through this awesome looking ring. This stuff I don't work at, so I don't need that. Seriously. 3D printing, this is one of our designers out of our incubator. So she 3D printed this awesome stuff. Biofabrics are amazing. My partner, Amanda Park, she has a algae company that makes actual algae reactors, like tiny algae reactors, that we're going to actually make a substrate to 3D print, and that's awesome. But, you know, that's stuff that I can't really speak to. What I can speak to is supply chains, and why integrating supply chains, creating shorter supply chains, is the investment that you want to make into the future. Because next shoring is what's happening. Forget reshoring, forget offshoring. You need to be close to both demand and innovation with your companies, especially if they're a goods-based business. This is strategic. Invest in companies that are talking about next shoring. Supply chain solutions, like one of our partners is SourceMap. And we're actually going to have a wall in our facility that through, you know, tracking or F codes, whatever it ends up being, we're going to actually track all of the different parts of the supply chain for both transparency on the consumer end, and then also for diligence on our end, and once again for operational efficiency. Also, another thing that you should consider is education and workforce training. There is a huge demand for this type of next-door local manufacturing, but there's no skilled people who do it. And let me tell you, garment work is skilled work. If anyone ever tells you it's unskilled, they've never been in a factory. And that's just the truth. So we need this sort of workforce training. I probably went over that. And so we also, oh, this is kind of cool too, is, you know what fashion technology is? Sewing machines. 100 years ago? Wow, oh my God. Like I don't have to hand sew it. This is awesome. Like, you know, this is what the future is for us too, is we're still using the same machines. Like I literally am using a 60-year-old machine to do the same work that, you know, my grandparents did in our factory. And it's like, wow, that's amazing, but can we do better? There's huge market opportunities here for anyone who's willing to work with technologists to create new systems and new types of hardware, new types of machines. And I don't mean hardware like computers, those will be integrated in, but we need machines that work better than what we have now. And then also the last thing is that textile waste, circular economy, sharing economy, you know, the whole idea of by not wasting so many materials, you can save money. So that's, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, that's all I got. Anyway, yeah.
Thank you both. This was all fascinating, and I think speaking for myself, it was a lot of new information for at least for me, and hopefully for others as well. So we'll open it up to questions. I know you have questions, and we'll just see who wants to go first. Yes, Deb.
Okay, so I had a question for Bob. Very interesting commentary, but I wanted to know specifically, what do you mean when you talk about sustainability as being critical? Is it just recycling and energy efficiency, or what?
That's a great question. I wish I had Patrick here. But so basically, when I'm talking about sustainability, I'm primarily in this context for purposes of investment talking about operational sustainability, and ecological sustainability is part of that. But it's not just what you're thinking like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to recycle and I'm just going to reuse some things. It's also just about keeping your supply chain as tight and local as possible to save on transportation costs and fuel costs. It's also about sustainability in terms of your workforce, saving their time, you know, because like if you're airing people all around the globe, like if you're working with companies that have these extremely extended global supply chains, they're wasting a lot of time, they're wasting a lot of money, a lot of environmental impact in that. It's all about impact. And the truth is, it's fashion, it's clothes. We're working on some technologies that will be zero waste, you know, like this biofabric that we're working on that'll 3D print and then it'll dissolve and then you can make something else out of it again and it's basically zero waste. Well, that's amazing, that's the future, and I know people invest in those companies. But they also need to invest in companies that are focusing on operational sustainability and technologies that support that, like actual accounting platforms that account for the supply chain and things like that.
Yes, over here, Peggy.
Just looking at two questions. One is, I think for Bob, are you seeing a trend toward people buying better, fewer? We've seen several presentations recently where that's the premise. And then my second question, probably for Sabine, is we all talk about all of this wearable, but I never see anybody talking about whether we should be having this technology. What is the Google Glass doing? What kind of waves are coming like this? And so is there any conversation about safety?
Okay, Bob first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that at this point, there is still this sense of aspiration in some ways, like to be perfectly realistic. It depends on what category and what customer you're talking about. There is this sense of people starting to see the value in quality, but that also requires companies to invest in campaigns and in educating their consumer about why the high quality works. And a lot of it is that, unfortunately, the point of access to the clothes is just at the retail level, so they're not seeing any other part of the process, and so that's where transparency comes in. Like Everlane, for example, has almost complete transparency with their product. People are willing to pay more for that.
And Sabine, the second question was really about safety.
Yeah, so absolutely. It is so that we have to understand when we talk, that's why my reference to bioelectronics, for example, or to low power, to elements where also that's why I said Bluetooth 4 is still, has still a radiation level that we don't know yet how secure it is, yes or no. However, that's why currently and probably in the next couple of years, we will also have the ability to have absolute low power and no radiation, absolutely, very simple radios that have no impact at all. Because like I said before, we as humans, we radiate all the time. We are small little microwaves in the first place. So if we can actually make that work, then it is safe enough. But right now, you have a big battery pack, you have a Bluetooth sensor right there, you have some other stuff going on. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But but we definitely take that into consideration all the time. So that's a big one.
Thank you. Any questions over here? Yes, Janet.
How far are we away from, first of all, flexible 3D fabric, and then secondly, from completely customized apparel? I walk in the store and I say, I want that dress but in blue, and it's got perfectly.
The first one is you.
So first of all, 3D printing is just one manufacturing possibility. We're talking about flexible substrates. We're talking about making computation sensors, microprocessors, whatever you need flexible, on-flexible substrates that can be printed, for example. That's absolutely, I would say, we're working on launching something in the spring, 18 months, 24 months, you will actually have something that we can then integrate into an actual garment. The life cycles are actually very, very fast now. People have been talking about it for quite some time, and now it's actually there because of material science also. So there's a combination between, that's why I talked also about the acceleration. The acceleration also means that if we have more investment in that space, we can actually hire more people to actually make that leap of faith into, putting chemists and putting designers and putting, electrical engineers together to actually make it work. So, the time is ripe. It's absolutely. And
Thank you.
it sort of falls into the same category.
Yeah, well, I especially just want to make a comment about this concept of on-demand manufacturing, because I'm sure you've, it sounds extremely appealing. For things like some accessories, it's on-demand manufacturing and then mass customization, are like the two big buzzwords right now. And you're seeing strides in that. I do not see actually on the ground with these startup companies that I'm helping the actual revenue model for mass customization working for almost anyone right now. I see it being subsidized by big companies if they are doing it. And so, but once again, that's from an operations standpoint. a lot of it is technology, but most of it's operations and logistics. And so we have to go in, and if you're going to invest in a business that's going into the mass customization market, I think there's a huge demand for that. You just have to make sure that that company has a very strong operations side, or that you're willing to give them that support and the vision and the experience. Because a lot of these startups, their founders are not experienced in operations, and they need someone in there to do that. In terms of on-demand manufacturing, it depends on what it is. Until we have the flexible 3D, like I'm sure y'all saw the Photoshop, like a dress like coming out of a 3D printer on a wall like 2 years ago, and it's like, yeah, no, that was a computer rendering, and it's not there yet. For things like tailoring, it depends on which category it is. Some things will require traditional manufacturing for the next 20 years, at least. And some things you're never going to want to just be spit out of a machine. You're going to want it to be fit on your body because you're a human. So you want a human to help you do that. We also have to think about the economic and social impact of what we're talking about if we automate the entire fashion industry. That means we're going to lose over 600 million jobs worldwide. So we need to talk about like how are we converting those people to other jobs, or is this even a good idea?
Do we have any questions over on this side of the room? Vanessa?
Peggy was interested in safety. I'm interested in how do you wash the clothes that have.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. So encapsulation. So for example, if you have a printed circuit on a flexible substrate and that you coat it basically with, let's say, a silicone layer, you can wash it, no problem. You just can't, what you cannot do, you cannot wash right now batteries. So the only thing we need to take out right now is a battery. Everything else you can wash, everything else you can clean. So that is a huge premise, and that was always the problem why this is never went anywhere, because people were thinking about cables, people were thinking about microprocessors that, are like in my, you can't wash this,
I've tried.
Yeah. But, that's why I was talking also about low power, meaning that we don't really need much power, or we can generate power ourselves. So absolutely, and it's a great question, but we're there, we're working on it.
Emily, use the mic, thanks.
Thanks. Thank you both for two of the most interesting presentations I've ever heard here. This was terrific. Thank you. Really exciting stuff. My question was really something that Peggy brought up initially, which has to do with consumer attitudes and the evolution of consumer attitudes. And I think there's an interesting analogy in the food world as well. This whole thing that we started to think more about what we're consuming, how we're consuming it, the quality of what we're consuming, the impact, blah blah blah. I think the project in New York is amazing. And can I ask who you think is doing a good job in educating the consumers? And it could be a retailer that has, a very clear economic interest. It could be an industry group. But how are we educating consumers about? I mean, I know I had a kind of a light bulb go off last year when the horrible things happened. I got to deal with it. Who's educating consumers and how do we do better?
And it's incredibly difficult because until Rana Plaza, it really just was not on the radar. That was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire of our century, and that was the wake-up call, and we're only 1 year out from that. So we're all still working on it. That like Manufactured in New York is in like 5 different movies that are coming out in the next year or so, specifically documentaries talking about what happened at Rana Plaza, and then also what's the future. Like one of them is specifically that you should have on your radar is The True Cost. It's going to be incredible, well-produced film specifically on the future of fashion and the impact of cheap, fast fashion. Though I still see in the comment sections of things, of like retail, because there's this whole social media aspect of retail now, you can see someone's like, honestly, I don't care. I just want a $5 t-shirt. And that's simply because we've been so divorced from the process for so long that realistically, it will take time to rebuild that understanding. That's a huge part of Manufacturing New York's educational mission, is to have tours in the factory and to actually show people. But it's going to be a hard process, changing consumer attitudes.
Thank you. We had a question here, Andrew.
Thanks. My question is for Celine. As we collect all this information,
A little closer to the mic.
as we collect all this information, it gives rise to questions of privacy. And how do we know where to draw a barrier between what is private and what is public?
So first of all, I do believe in the cloud. I think the cloud is a fantastic storage medium. It's a fantastic transfer medium. It shall not be my cloud. My cloud is right here. Just giving you a metaphor. This basically is tanned, and it's tanned because I have a certain pH level. My body has a certain pH level. So this has a specific biological footprint, my own personal biological footprint. Imagine this is my actual storage. I can store gigabytes of data in here, and it's mine. And nobody can access it because it has my biological footprint. I actually put my own virus on it. So that's sort of like how I think about privacy. However, then what I'm really interested in is understanding disease patterns. So I'm going to opt in and say, hey, I travel a lot all over the world, and I give the data sets that my dress actually accumulates, for example, pollution levels all over the world, so that we can see where asthma is actually prevalent, where we need to actually really think about different types of filters, and so forth. So there's a combination. I will see, or I will hope that there will be an opt-in level, and there's a very highly privacy level. So to me, the understanding of data is so that I can collect my own data, I have my own storage systems, I have my own privacy settings, but I will also be able to release data if need be. What I don't, and I think this is one of the things I very, very heavily do disagree with, is when large corporations do own data sets and they just own it and they just don't give it away. I mean, I don't know how many, if you have a Facebook account, basically whenever you write an email, whenever you post anything, it's not yours anymore. You don't own it anymore. So, there's also transparency. There's another type of transparency we need to educate people to really understand what is happening with that as well. But understanding my own body and having data about my own body and capturing that. So for example, you go to the doctor, whenever you go to the doctor, you have a specific, I'm not really sure, they take your blood pressure and then you're